Grace, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite tropes and which books they appear in. So I've compiled a list of my favorite tropes in YA fiction, and I have figured out which books that have those are my favorites, if that makes sense. First of all, my all-time favorite trope is hate to love, and my favorite version of hate to love is in Shatter Me with Warner and Juliet. If you have watched the other videos on my channel, this comes as no surprise. I love Warner and Juliet more than I love anything in the whole world. My favorite version of hate to love is in the Shatter Me series. We don't start to see the beginnings of that until Unravel Me, so when you hate Warner and Shatter Me, don't worry, you're supposed to. If you love hate to love, I recommend this book. I mean, I recommend it to everyone. I also love friends to lovers, especially like childhood friends to lovers, and my favorite version of that is for sure the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I just adore how the romance unfolds in this. It's these kids who have grown up together, and so the romance, it's not surface level because they've known each other their entire lives and they've watched each other grow up, and I love that kind of romance. I love friends to lovers, especially when they've known each other their whole lives, and that's what The Summer I Turned Pretty is. That's basically the entirety of what it's about, is about growing up together and then falling in love. Another one of my favorites is fake relationships. I love that trope so much. A very popular one is in To All the Boys I Loved Before, but my favorite example is The Fill-In Boyfriend by Casey West. I adore this book. It's so cute, and I love the fake relationship aspect. I think it's really well done. It's adorable, it's funny, it's got conflict. I just love it. Even though it's predictable because in all fake relationships, the fake relationship ends up not being fake because they fall for each other. But I love that. I love that, and I promise you I will write a book that includes that at some point because that's one of my favorite tropes, and if you like that trope, read this book. This one's going to be one less people agree with, but love triangles. It's not one of my favorite tropes, but when done well, I really appreciate it and I really enjoy it. The books that I love that include love triangles are all of these. So these are all 5-star reads for me, and they all include love triangles. And so a friend pointed out to me that love triangles has to be one of my favorites because so many of my favorite books include them. So, okay, I love the selection. The love triangle in it isn't a big part, and it's not my favorite part because it's very clear who she needs to decide to love. But this book is phenomenal, and I love it, and it includes the love triangle. And some people don't like the love triangle. I can see why, because it's not a love triangle where there's really any debate because Maxon. And then The Summer I Turned Pretty, which I just talked about with the childhood friends to lovers trope. This also has a love triangle. To me, it makes sense because she grew up with these two boys and she loves them both in different ways. And so I totally understand the love triangle aspect there because she's trying to decide where the romantic love comes in, as opposed to just the fact that she grew up with them and loves them so dearly because she knows them so well. And then there's a love triangle in this. There's not in the first book. In the first book, there's a romance with somebody who's not Warner. There's a love triangle, and it's obvious who she should pick because Warner is the best. Another trope that I adore, and I think the YA community adores right now, is morally gray main characters. I just love it. So first off, we've got the Cruel Prince. They're not just morally gray, they're morally evil. The entire book is just a morally gray book because the morals are very iffy, if not non-existent. If you like morally gray books, this is the book for you. And then my second example is Six of Crows. We all love us some Kaz Brekker because if you don't, how and why? Kaz Brekker is very morally gray. Wendy's stretching on my lap. Can I tilt this down so you can see her a little bit better? Wendy, you're so ridiculous. Oh my goodness. So Kaz Brekker is morally gray, but he's very likable. I mean, in The Cruel Prince, I think they're likable. But with Six of Crows, there's not many people who disagree with me that Kaz Brekker is likable, even though he's morally gray. He's very greedy. He cares about money more than most things. He will do anything to get what he wants, even if those things are not very good. I think he'd murder you if you got in his way. But we love him. We love him. And so, if you haven't read this somehow, I mean, read the trilogy first, but if you haven't read this and you love morally gray main characters, this is perfect. Speaking of the trilogy, I actually do like the chosen one trope when it's done well, and I think it's done well in this series. So I know the chosen one trope is overdone, but I mean, I think we can all agree it's done well in Harry Potter. So obviously it's not like a trope that avoid at all costs. I think it's done really well in this series as well, because Alina is definitely, it's a chosen one trope, but I really like how it's done. I love it. I really, really love this series. If you like the chosen one trope, I would definitely recommend this series. I mean, Harry Potter is the chosen one trope, so stop with all the hate on the chosen one trope. I understand that it can be annoying when it's like, oh, I'm a very normal person and I'm not pretty, but I'm also beautiful. I have no point in life, and then suddenly, I'm the chosen one, I'm meant to save the world, there's a prophecy about me. That's annoying, I get that, but that's not this, that's not Harry Potter, it's not the ones that are good, so I recommend this if you like the good chosen one tropes. I also recommend this if you like the lovable villain trope, because the Darkling is irresistible, and he's sort of the villain in this. He's lovable. Is that true? It's more of like a guilty pleasure love. Like, those of us who love him probably know we shouldn't, but do anyway. I'm pretty sure everybody loves a snarky sidekick, and that is one of my favorite tropes as well, and I think it's best done in Shatter Me. Kenji is the best. He's not seen as much in Shatter Me. Like, if you want more snarky sidekick, read the rest of the series. It just keeps getting better, guys. Kenji is the snarkiest sidekick of all the snarky sidekicks, and he's amazing, and you should read this. Even if you don't love the first book, read on for When You Will Fall for Warner and for more Kenji, because Kenji is so amazing. He's amazing. He's so funny. I love him. Another trope I really love is star-crossed lovers, because it's about the conflict. Like, if they're star-crossed and there's like no way to be together, that just like makes me so invested in the story. So one of my favorite examples is The Sun is Also a Star. This is a contemporary novel, but I very much think they're star-crossed. That's kind of like the theme and the plot, because it's about these two characters who meet, and most of it takes place within 24 hours, and they know they can't be together, and yet they're pulled to each other. And that's the perfect, speaking of perfect, that's like the perfect example of how star-crossed lovers is done well. Like, they can't be together, but they want to find a way, but they can't, because there are outside forces that keep them from being able to be together. And this book was phenomenal. If you love star-crossed lovers, if you love contemporary, this was really, really, really good. I also believe To Kill a Kingdom is a good example of star-crossed lovers. It's about a siren and a human, and basically the siren's goal is to kill him. And so it's star-crossed in the sense that if she falls for him, she fails her task, she fails her entire goal, and she lets down her entire kingdom. And if he falls for her, because he's also like hunting her, and so they're both trying to kill each other. And so falling for each other complicates that. And it's very star-crossed. I really enjoy this Little Mermaid retelling. I would recommend it if you're looking for a good Little Mermaid retelling, and if you like star-crossed lovers. Another trope I love, but don't have an example for because I don't know if I've read a book of this, is Exes to lovers. And I'm gonna write one. If you know of a book, preferably YA, that has an Exes to lovers trope, I would love for you to tell me in the comments or message me on Bookstagram, because I love the idea of it. I have multiple book ideas that are Exes to lovers, because I love the idea of like second chances. So like a second chance kind of romance. Oh, wait, I guess I could have said Second Chance Summer for this. It's not super Exes to lovers, but Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. Let me go grab it. So Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson is about this girl who grew up with friends that they met every summer and grew close, and the main character Taylor had a romance with Henry back when they were teenagers, like 13 years old, and now she's come back and they're like 17, 18-ish probably, and there are things that Taylor did when she left that basically destroyed her bonds with Henry and her other friend, whose name I can't remember. Lucy. So Henry and Lucy, she's like basically ruined her relationships with them. Lucy is her ex-best friend and Henry is her ex-boyfriend, and throughout the story she has to like mend those relationships, and I think it's a great example of it. So it's a more like childhood exes to teenage lovers. That's not a thing. It's really well done in this, and so I want to see more things like that where I just love the idea of second chances, of seeing, like, even though it didn't work before, that doesn't mean it can't work now. And I just think it's a great thematic element that I want to see done in more books, and I'm going to write books like that. And my final favorite trope that I'm sharing with you today is mistaken identity. I love that because it creates, like, really funny books usually. It can also definitely be in, like, books that are more, like, suspenseful, but it mostly is funny books. And my favorite example so far is Wanderlost by Jen Malone. I read this in, I think, August, and it became one of my favorites. I gave it 5 stars. So basically the plot of this is that the main character, Aubrey, her older sister, Elizabeth, is supposed to go to Europe and lead a group of old people on a tour of Europe, but for reasons in the plot, Elizabeth is not able to go, so Aubrey goes in her place pretending to be Elizabeth, and then she starts to fall for this guy, Sam, who thinks she's Elizabeth. And so that complicates the plot because Sam thinks he's falling for Elizabeth, but it's really Aubrey. The fact that she pretends to be Elizabeth and Sam doesn't really know her real name, even though he knows her pretty well, it causes conflict because that makes him feel like she's lied to him, you know, if he finds out. I love that kind of, like, internal dilemma, internal conflict, where, like, she doesn't want people to find out because she could get in trouble, her sister could get in trouble, but she's falling for this guy and he doesn't even know her real name. If you like mistaken identity tropes, read this book. It's so underrated. I haven't seen many other people talk about this, and I adored it. I really, really loved it, so I would highly recommend it. So that's my list of favorite tropes and my favorite books in which they appear. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know down below what your favorite tropes are. You can even go above and beyond and let me know what your favorite book is that includes those tropes. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you think about the tropes. Just react to anything in the video, and I will happily respond and have a conversation. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week for the next video.